Hi, this is John with Freedom Forum. This outstanding clip from Laura Ingraham demonstrates how President Trump's bigger-than-life optimism, which seems to be under constant attack, is actually a mark of true leadership. Check it out.
Now, FDR, during the depths of the Great Depression, in his first inaugural address, told the country that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Those immortal words were meant to instill confidence, not panic, to convey strength, not weakness. Winston Churchill, during the worst of the Blitz on London, went on radio night after night to boost the spirits of his people as the Nazis brutally tried to bomb Britain into submission. Now, both men understood that projecting fear or worry onto a beleaguered people is dangerous. In fact, when a free people begin to doubt their own survival, well, that's when they need optimistic, unshakable leaders the most. Falling into self-doubt or dwelling on the worst aspects of our past or our present only breeds self-loathing, defeatism, and despair, and ultimately disaster. And this is precisely the mindset today's Democrats have adopted. Joe Biden and his media apparatchiks have become masters of anti-American propaganda. They believe that we live in a wicked, racist country, a country that deserves suffering, punishment, and pain.
And what it did, though, it also exposed what had not been paid enough attention to. The underlying racism that is institutionalized in the United States still exists, has existed for 400 years. And so what's happened is that we end up in a circumstance like you had here in Kenosha.
Now, justifying the riots while condemning the violence, oh yeah, that's really nice. The obvious question for Biden that these pseudo-journalists will not ask is this. Sir, how could a systematically racist country elect an African-American president not once, but twice? Has Biden forgotten his own resume? And here's another question. What was Joe Biden doing for the last 47 years? How many times has Biden talked about what a great country we have and what a great people we are? Was that all a lie, or is he lying now? Is he smearing this country in 250 years of American history in a cynical attempt to win minority votes? Well, one thing's for sure. His protectors in the media won't try to find out. Whatever's Biden's motivation here, whatever it might be, his words are doing great harm. His most ardent supporters now openly question whether America, with all its white privilege, will or even should survive. A just published New Yorker piece titled "The American Myth" argues that the United States feels like it's unraveling. The foundation of our nation has deepening cracks, possibly too many to repair anytime soon, or perhaps at all. The attempt to reckon with our unjust past has produced more questions and new divisions about our future. Well, the fact is, the hard left, that's the hard left, gave up on America decades ago. They never forgave Americans for electing Reagan. And disgusted with this country, they decided to poison its future. They took over the universities and began the slow but steady process of indoctrinating our kids to despise the United States, turning their minds against our history, our Constitution, and our traditions. Now, this sort of thing was going on when I was in college, but it's gotten much worse since then. Over the last 35, 40 years, generations of young people have been spoon-fed all manner of anti-American poison. And these efforts, oh, they've paid off for the left. All over the blue states, we see ungrateful brats roaming the streets in their Antifa costumes, straight out of Central Casting, burning government buildings, and even terrorizing innocent Americans. It's a stunning combination of ignorance and rage. The Democrat Party that Biden joined in the early 1970s, back then it still had some sense. It still believed in the rule of law. It believed that illegal immigration was a problem. Heck, almost 40 years later, Barack Obama went to great pains, remember, to distance himself from the hateful anti-American rhetoric of his mentor, Jeremiah U.S. of KKK Wright. But now it's all changed. Donald Trump came along and Democrats collectively lost their minds. And Trump, they'd met their match. They met somebody who was unrepentantly pro-America.
But you have to understand, I'm a cheerleader for this country.
And never forget, they're coming after me because I'm fighting for you. There's a lot of truth in that one.
Now, Democrats could not risk him winning again. So they threw in with the Hate America crowd, hoping to ride the wave of civil unrest after George Floyd to victory in November. Well, that was wicked and it was selfish. It was also a huge political mistake. Now, 2 months into the chaos, Biden scrambled to come out and try to condemn the violence, but the damage was already done. He's now tied his political fortunes to those who've given up on America. He stopped trying to put forward any serious proposals that we know would make life really better for most Americans. Because why would you want to make things better for a bunch of racists? He certainly has no intention of maintaining American power, because why would you want a racist country to have any power? All he's left with, in fact, are the scraps of manufactured scandals that the media will toss out from now until the election. Well, yesterday, we debunked the Atlantic magazine smear that President Trump somehow criticized our troops. And today, as if right on cue, the press moved right along, fulminating about Bob Woodward's new book. Today's big claim was that Trump allegedly downplayed the coronavirus in public while privately telling Woodward that it was much more deadly than the flu. Well, Biden's faux anger quickly followed.
He lied to the American people. He knowingly and willingly lied about the threat it posed to the country for months. He knew how dangerous it was. And while this deadly disease ripped through our nation, he failed to do his job on purpose.
Again, this is nonsense. The president addressed this head on today.
It's just another political hit job, but whether it was Woodward or anybody else, you cannot show a sense of panic or you're going to have bigger problems than you ever had before.
And by the way, he said as much at the end of March. We'll get into that in a minute. Dr. Fauci, normally treated as gospel by the Trump-hating media, he directly refuted the media's anti-Trump narrative.
I didn't really see any discrepancies between what he told us and what we told him and what he ultimately came out publicly and said.
So did you get a sense that he was or wasn't playing this down?
No, I didn't. I didn't get any sense that he was distorting anything.
Whoops, suddenly Fauci's not quoted anywhere. Now, as for Joe Biden, he was the one who was downplaying the virus. He criticized Trump's China travel ban and was out campaigning at events into March. The reality is that Biden, his team, and his supporters, all of them in the press, they've given up on the country that you love. Instead of respecting the actual data and defending our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms, Team Biden, they want to lock America down for months. Of course, there's an exception. If you want to riot against Trump, you're okay. Don't think about going to church, though, or having any fun. Talk about defeatist, let alone stupid and destructive. Now, by contrast, President Trump is an informed optimist. He wants us to wash our hands, be smart. If you want to wear a mask, and carry on. Of course, Bob Woodward would never put any of that in a book. We've been telling you since the beginning of the year that the Democrats have no positive platform to offer. They don't believe that things are ever going to get really better in the United States. They never liked this country much to begin with, and now they've given up on it totally. So the only way they convince Americans to vote for Biden is to accept less. Expect a full-bore effort over the next 2 months to demoralize you, demoralize Trump voters. They want you to accept defeat before a single vote is counted. And they're using big tech billionaires to preset the narrative.
There's nothing illegitimate about this election taking additional days or even weeks to make sure that all of the votes are counted. In fact, that might be important to make sure that this is a legitimate and fair election.
Okay, that's just creepy. We somehow managed to vote in person during every other major American crisis. So why not now, Mark? Because Trump's president, that's why. The left is engaged in an all-out effort to depress and suppress the pro-Trump vote, while meanwhile, swamping us with mail-in votes. So far, these efforts have not worked. We're still fighting for our country, and the America First populist coalition supporting Donald Trump, we're optimistic. And most Americans are just hardworking people. They want to live in safety and security. They haven't thrown in the towel on our guarantee of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're not about to give up the greatest country in history because of a virus or rampaging radicals. And that's the end.